Hi guys, this is a video about the weird little words that we insert into conversation in French when we're sort of thinking, reacting, all this kind of business. This is a common letdown for a lot of people. So people who speak actually pretty well, but then they'll suddenly throw, like in French, but then they'll suddenly throw in, you know, or well, or that means, and you're thinking, everything was in French until that point, and then that. Well, one of the reasons why that this happens is because it's kind of like an expletive connected to how you feel, a bit like swearing, a bit like cursing. And so that's actually quite interesting for language learning as a whole. So if when you're thinking about stuff, when you use the vocabulary that you're using, if you absolutely think about what you're saying. So for example, if you feel really happy when you're saying a happy word, vocabulary-wise, when you next have that sensation, that vocabulary will come to you. So that's quite useful. So let's go through a few of them. So words that I'm like talking about in English are things like well, you know. So one of them is bien. Bien. Obviously B-I-E-N, bien. So if you... Thanks. Cheers. Wow, I'm not that wide. I don't really need it to stop the car to come past me. I'm like, how much have I been eating? So for example, if you're talking and someone says, Luke, what are you doing this weekend? So Luke, qu'est-ce que tu vas faire ce weekend? Bien. So bien is obviously a positive affirmation. Like, well, you know, bien, but not quite as common as well in English. Okay, but it's a great word to say, bien. We'll give some examples of all of these at the end. The next one, just so that we've got them down, is ben, which is sort of semi-formally spelt B-E-N, which is kind of a thinking word. So, ben, je sais pas, I don't know kind of thing. So it's kind of a thinking, pondering one. So as in, you know, Luke, qu'est-ce que tu vas faire ce week-end? Ben, je sais pas. So it's kind of the thinking noise. Yeah? So that's that one. The next one is bof, which for my mind now is a bit out of date, but some people still use it loads. So for example, that's kind of like, dunno, bof, aucune idée. Yep, bof. Which is similar, so you could sort of go, what is he going to do? Qu'est-ce qu'il va faire? Ben, bof, je sais pas. So one could become the other. The next one that I want to talk about is quoi. Now, quoi is a proper word. It means what, as you well know. And quoi, like the word you know, or what, very posh English people years ago used to use what at the end of a sentence. There's so many, I remember the book on so many Broadway style shows, and there were always a couple of weird English characters in it, and they always used to have what at the end of it. I'm thinking Crazy for You was a show I did, and I remember thinking, why did they say what at the end? But it used to be quite like a class thing in English. So in other words, if you're saying something which then invites the person you're talking to think some more, so if you sort of said, well, you know, it's like a sort of cafe, like bar, you know, like, and you're inviting a little bit more thought from them, that is what... Good morning. That is what quoi will do. So if somebody said, well, where are you guys going for a drink? Ouais, c'est une espèce de café, bar, quoi. It's sort of like inviting further thought from them. It isn't just, I'm telling you, it's a sort of half bar, half cafe. It's sort of inviting. And that's actually why you know is so addictive in the sort of Kim Kardashian way of the world, you know, like a kind of, because it's kind of asking someone else to do a little bit of the intellectual workload. And I myself shove quoi on all the time, because I sort of speak in sentences that are getting people to try and do some thinking. So that's why this happens. So far then we've got ben, bien, bof, quoi. Another one I like is fin. Fin, which literally like Fin, like towards the end, is well, you can tell we're no longer in London because everybody says hello to each other. The other one I really like is if you say fin, because it's taking you on a journey. It's sort of saying, I'm starting this, well, going towards a point. So it's kind of when you've made half your point and then you're going on to the next part of your point. So if somebody said, what are you going to do this weekend, Luke? Well, we're probably going to go out, to like the cinema. Qu'est-ce que tu vas faire ce weekend? Fan could kind of go there, but oui, on va sortir, au cinéma. Fan's kind of like a little pause before the sort of second half of what you're going to say. So it's funny getting people to use these. I don't want them to become tics, but you almost have to make people listen out for them first, and then you have to make people practice them. Because otherwise you use the English ones. So quoi is a good one to start with. Don't forget that you've got the basic thinking schwa as well. So you've basically got the So whereas in English we'd say the use of and well and all of this is often in English because English is a consonantal language. So people need an excuse to create a noise that they are thinking of. So, Luke, what are you going to do this weekend? That's buying us thinking time. You can afford to have thinking time in French anyway. You are socially allowed to. It's kind of, you can make the noise. Luke, qu'est-ce que tu vas faire ce weekend? Je sais pas. The in itself is acceptable, which is often why French is slightly less littered with and and all of these kind of things as we get in English. Tu sais is obviously acceptable, or vous savez, but it's obviously not as common as in English. Oui, alors effectivement, on allait sortir ce week-end. Ouais, tu sais, vous savez. Again, it's another comment which is inviting the person to do some intellectual work, to think towards. It's kind of like saying my description, my definition isn't in itself so complete that you would need to sort of do a little bit of mental investigation. So let me think if I can think of any more. So we've got ben, bien, bof. So I'm speaking, oui, alors effectivement, que je vous parle en français. Alors si je vous parle en français, qu'est-ce que j'allais dire? Ouais, yeah, so there's a lot of slidey yes and no words, and this kind of links to the video that I will attach underneath that I've already done on different ways of saying yes and no. So if you answer a question, we don't always go yes and then the answer. We'll answer the question confirming or denying whatever's going on or negating what's going on, and then we'll sort of say yes halfway through. Are you going out this weekend? We're going to come, yeah. So it's kind of like you will often end up using the yes, all of that business, at a different point. So this is why the other words in French are great that you would say yes on, because otherwise we don't want to be what I call the three little pigs. Oui, oui, oui. So in other words, alternatives for yes are oui, tout à fait, exact, c'est bien ça, t'as raison, vous avez raison. The alternatives for no are non, surtout pas, bien sûr que non. So that in itself is quite useful, the different words for yes and no. So I am going to like a lot of things. I'm going to start this video, and when I pop it up, you keep an eye on it, because if I think of any more in my natural speech, I will attach them underneath. I hope this has been useful. Do remember I'm on Kofi. I have a Kofi account. If this helps you, do please let me know. I will speak to you guys soon.